is Top Accolade Global News Updates. I am Soibifa Jakarich. Vira Levko, a judge in the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, typically handles dozens of administrative cases and several criminal hearings every day, and she says there are others who are far busier than her. When Levko tells colleagues abroad about her workload, they find it hard to believe Ukraine is desperately short of judges and is kick-starting a long-delayed nationwide hiring spree to fill more than 2,000 vacancies and vet around as many sitting judges for potential malfeasance. The ambitious effort undertaken during the country's war with Russia is key to clearing a backlog of cases that has delayed justice for many Ukrainians. It is also central to cementing the rule of law, a condition for Ukraine to one day join even before Russia's full-scale invasion in February 2022. President Volodymyr Zelensky had signaled his desire for Ukraine to join the EU, meaning that the fight against corruption and embracing good governance became priorities. A poll released this month by the Razumkov Center think tank in Kyiv suggested only 18% of Ukrainians trust the cuts, the legacy of a judicial system long eroded by corruption. The European Commission, in a 2022 memo, said the judiciary continues to be regarded as one of the least trusted and credible institutions. Russia has detained an editor at US-funded Radio Free Europe Radio Liberty (RFRL) for failing to register as a foreign agent while visiting Russia for a family emergency. The broadcaster said Russia has tightened its control over the media since the start of Ukraine war, forcing the closure of leading independent news outlets and designating many journalists and publications as foreign agents. After the war and the arrest of Wall Street Journal correspondent Evan in March on spying charges, almost all U.S. journalists have left Russia. The State Department has repeatedly urged U.S. citizens to leave Russia. Also, Komachiva, an editor with Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty's Tata Bashkir service, who holds both U.S. and Russia passports, traveled to Russia on May 20th for a family emergency. As Komachiva sought to leave Russia at the end of that trip, she was detained and her passports were confiscated. As she awaited her return flight, she was fined for failing to register the U.S. passport with Russian authorities. Russian authorities announced on October 18th that Komachiva, who is based in Prague, had been charged with not registering as a foreign agent, RFRL said. The term, which carries Cold War connotations of espionage, is used in Russia to label organizations, journalists, activists, and even pop stars and writers deemed to be engaging in political activities with a foreign support. Russia's Tata-informed news agency said Komachiva had failed to register as a foreign agent. While gathering information on Russia's military activity, she could face up to 5 years in prison, according to RFRL, which called for her release. The Russian government has yet to comment on her detention. Ryanair is facing challenges at both ends of its price range, with Europe's largest airline taking aim at proposed minimum fares in France after fending off a cap on what it charges in Italy. France, where Ryanair serves cities such as Marseille and Bordeaux, has floated proposals for a minimum ticket price in an effort to reduce pollution from aviation. Across the border in Italy, Ryanair is the clear market leader and says its expansion plans remain on course after a public dispute with the government over a plan to limit prices on flights to the holiday islands of Sicily and Sardinia. The French price proposal, which EU officials said has drawn some support from the Netherlands and Belgium, got short shrifts from senior Ryanair executive Eddie Wilson. They are trying to disenfranchise their own citizens, he said, framing the proposal as an attempt to support national carriers at the expense of less affluent travelers. This summer's standoff between Ryanair and the Italian government shows how central the low-cost carriers have become to life in Europe and how hard it is to rein them in. Nokia Nokia will cut up to 14,000 jobs to reduce costs, it said on Thursday, warning it did not expect a market recovery soon after posting a 20% drop in third-party sales on weaker demand for 5G equipment. Shares in the Finnish company, which produces equipment for telecom networks, were down 2% at 0900 GMT. A slowdown in the United States, home to Verizon and AT&T, and one of the more profitable markets for Nokia and Ericsson, had forced them to look for growth in other regions such as India. But now India is also expected to normalize after a stellar 2022. The market situation is really challenging, and it is witnessed by the fact that in our most important market, which is the North American market, our net sales are down 40% in Q3. Nokia is targeting savings of between 800 million euros and 1.2 billion euros by 2026. It's expected to reduce its employment base to between 72,000 and 77,000 employees from 86,000, or about 16% job cuts at the high end. Nokia expects at least 400 million euros of saving in 2024 and a further 300 million euros in 2025. Ericsson, which has also laid off thousands of employees this year, said on Tuesday the uncertainty affecting its business would persist into 2024. We continue to believe in the mid to long-term markets, but we are not going to sit and wait and pray that the market will recover anytime soon, Lundmark said. We simply don't know when it will recover. Israel pounded Gaza with more airstrikes on Thursday as British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak followed US President Joe Biden on visits to demonstrate support for war against Hamas while urging Israel to ease the plight of besieged Gazans. Biden, who spent less than 8 hours in Israel, flew home on Wednesday night, having pledged support and hugged and consoled survivors of the October 7th raid by Hamas gunmen who rampaged through southern Israel, killing 1,400 people. But he appeared to have only limited success in his other mission to persuade Israel to ease the plight of 2.3 million Gazans under a total siege. Biden said he had secured an offer from Egypt to allow 28 trucks to reach Gaza at some point in incoming days, a fraction of the 100% a day that UN Aid Chief Martin Griffiths told the Security Council were needed. That is the size of top accolade global news updates. You can follow us on our social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy Thursday.